Hi, I'm Teryl from TerylLoy.com. Today we're going to do feathers. Over the years, I've had many requests to shows to do a video on feathers. As I'm showing everybody spines and spine work, they want to see the feathers that go on the spines. So okay, let's do it. I'm going to show you the simple feather or the long arm feather. It's a great place to start. And then you can go from there. Feathers become your signature on the quilt. They're fun to do and they're very forgiving. So let's get started. When you start feathers, just grab a pile of paper, scratch paper, and just a pen and sit down and start playing on paper. You'll go through quite a bit of paper before you get ready to go up to the machine. Feathers are a rhythm, and if you think of it in terms of just learning the rhythm, you'll be there. You know, if you do that before you try to quilt, you'll be ahead of the game. So here is the simple feather. You do your spine, or whatever shape you want to feather, and you put a teardrop on top. Notice I'm holding my pen in the air, because this is more like how I have to quilt on the long arm. It would be cheating to do this if I'm going to walk up to a long arm. I really have to learn to hold it up here. Now, if you're going to do this on your domestic quilt machine, yeah, you might be able to put your hand down on the paper. But we're going to start up here. So you do your teardrop. You're going to go up this back track, up the side of the teardrop, a third or a quarter of the way. Picture in your mind that this is half the way. Okay, that's about half of the teardrop. You're going to go a quarter, only up about a quarter or a third. That's very important, and I'll show you why in a minute. Then you're going to break off, and you're going to make half of a heart. If I told you, draw a bunch of half hearts, you'd say, okay. If I told you to draw a bunch of feathers, you're going to panic because you're not sure how to do that. We all can do hearts. We can do them in our sleep. So just think half hearts. Go back up about a quarter, half a heart. Go back up a quarter, half a heart. You can change the shape of your hearts later and make them any shape you want. But get in this rhythm that they're just hearts, because you can do that. Then when you get to the bottom, you're going to stitch back up that line, and we have to go slow. None of us can speed up this line and get it accurate. We got to stitch up slowly. As you can tell, I can't even get it very accurate with a pen. And then we're going to do it again, and we come up a quarter and we come off. We don't have to be worried that they're exactly the same size as the other side. In fact, I like them when they're not. And we just do half hearts. Whoops, I got some bad ones going there. Okay. There are two common mistakes that beginners make. And I'm going to show you those mistakes right now so you never make them. You can just get them out of your head. We go up, we make our teardrop. So here's that half mark. If we go up too high and then we cut off, look what's going to happen. I would have to make a humongous heart to be in proportion with this little center of the heart I just started. Well, what do I tend to do instead? I finger it, and now I'm stuck. And now I'm very frustrated because I'm making fingers. Very typical what happens when we start. So it's very, very important to cut off early so that heart doesn't have to be so big so you can get nice shape to it, okay? If you go up too high, you're just not set up right. The other issue, you might come off right. Well, here's a little sub issue. Some people come off right at about a quarter, but then they keep going north. It's like, no, turn the corner. Because if you keep going north, you're going to end up with the same problem you had over here. Soon as you break off, turn the corner on that heart. Okay, and come on down. Okay, the second mistake we commonly make when we're just starting is we do the teardrop just fine. We go up about a quarter, just fine. We break off. We're making that heart, but we come at the spine. Well, now where's my next feather? I'm stuck. And what happens? I end up doing this again. Fingers. This time it looks like thumbs. So it's very important. Remember, hearts have points at the bottom. Point down the spine. That sets you up for the next one. It's this angle that sets you up for the next feather. You have to come down the spine. So I know I'm getting, let's try it over here where it's a little cleaner. Down the spine. down the spine, down the spine, down the spine. See the difference? So those are the two things. Don't go too high and come down the spine, the two hints. Okay, I want to show you a couple more little cheater hints to get started. Notice how you hit this spine a lot, especially after you quilt back up to get to the other side. So you end up putting a lot of thread right here. And it tends, sometimes it could look messy like I did here. I overshot, here I undershot. Well, a hint would be if you're, especially when you're starting, do your teardrop, but intentionally don't hit the spine. Leave a little gap. Nobody's going to know then if those gaps are equal. And it just cleans that spine up. See the difference? And when you go up, go ahead and echo that. Instead of trying to backtrack all the way to the top on that spine, do a loose echo. Maybe merge in at the top, whoops, somewhere, and then come down again. Just gives it a little cleaner look. Whoops, having a little pen trouble here. And I think you'll just be a little more satisfied as you get started. You can come back later and fill in your spine. Maybe you come in and put little circles in here or something, or some little design. Also, and by the way, I learned to do feathers initially from Linda Taylor years ago. This is probably very close to what she still teaches. When you come in, if you have some bad feathers, don't pick. Add things that distract the eye from those feathers. Maybe you'll come in and put little loops in your bad feathers, or all the feathers. See how I'm distracting the eye now? Because I'm just adding detail. Or maybe instead you want to come in and echo them. Say you got some feathers that you don't like the outside edges of them, the shape. Well, echo, come back. It gives you a chance to reshape and make them all look a little more uniform. Or you could do the echo tuck style. Come in, echo, tuck, echo, tuck. This really gives you a chance to reshape them and just make them more interesting. And people don't notice now those that you didn't like that weren't exactly the right shape. So those are some ideas for you to get started, okay? So the two things to remember though is come down the spine and don't go up too high. Do half hearts and just get in that rhythm. You're just going up, around, down, up, around, down, up, around, down. Okay? Ready to try it on the machine? I would say in your case, use up a whole pile of paper first. Just practice and get in that rhythm. But let's go to the machine and give it a try. Okay, let's just do a few of those branches, those feather branches we did on paper to start. We're going to go up, do our spine, put a little, now I could try to go back up on that line exactly, but I'd have to go too slow. I don't want to bother. I'm going to echo it. Notice the position of my hands. I like doing them this way. I don't have to do them this way, but I really like dragging my fingertips on the fabric. It just gives me a little added control. You might try it if you can adjust your handlebars so that your fingers just reach. There are microstitch handlebars also that I use, but usually not for this work. I don't usually use those for feathering. I just need a little bit of drag. So I have just my fingertips down. Let's play a little bit. I'm going to just play around and do some odd shaped feathers. Okay, there's a crazy spine. I wanted to show you how, I'm going to actually do the other side first, because I want to show you how we tuck into these curves. Give you as many hints as we can to start off with. So I'm going to do these upside down because I don't want to bother to trace that whole thing. So I'm making my hearts upside down. Now, as I pass through here, I'm recognizing I only have about half of this space to work with because the other half of this space is going to get used up by the feathers on the other side. So I'm just kind of keeping in mind that my feathers can extend beyond half. Now, as I get to my curves like this, I have to start laying those tails, curving those tails around. So I do most of my movement around the corner with the tail or the point of the heart. See, so I have an extra long tail, take a couple little extra stitches so I could lay that next one down. See how long I made that tail? Lay that one down. Lay that one down. And of course I could have made them bigger if I wanted to fill this space, if I didn't want a hole. Okay, now here, again, I'm going to sneak in here, but I only get half the space. So I have to start making them a little smaller. Now if I want, I can make them a little bigger because I got more space. Curve those tails around. Get small again. Maybe here I get big. But you got the idea. This is why we like to call them, I call them chameleons. They fill up whatever space you have. You need to fill up space, feather it. And that's why as quilters we all jump to feathering. You get these unusual spaces around stuff on, you know, maybe you got some applique on a quilt, some odd shapes, and you need to get something around it, feather it out, because feathers can be all sizes. And I really do like it when they vary in size. You can do very formal feathers when all the feathers are almost exactly the same size, but this little variation I think is a lot of fun. So again, these are the simple feathers, or the long arm feathers. The other feather is called over the top feather. It involves two motions, an extra set of motions. So if you get in the rhythm for this and master this one, you'll jump to the next one very quickly. But I would suggest you stick with one or the other initially and try not to pick them both up at the same time because it is very confusing. Also, there are a lot of teachers out there teaching feathers, and we all teach it slightly different, and we all have what works best for us. Some teachers will teach you come down one side and you go up the other side. I'm challenged by that because you have to be a little bit more ambidextrous because you're doing mirror imaged and reverse direction at the same time. So I choose not to do that. I choose instead to do the double spine. So you'll see variations out there. I just encourage you to find what works for you and don't get hung up if one person's method doesn't work for you. Find your own, do what works, and just go for it. It's a lot of fun. And none of us do it well out of the box. You really do need to sit and practice for a little bit. Just get scratch paper and sit in front of the TV and practice those feathers. You really can get it, and they are so useful and fun. I'll show you a quick demo of the over-the-top feather, or the formal feather as some people call it, just so you recognize the differences, and we'll do a video later down the road on that one. But here's a quick video of the other, or quick demo of the other one. The difference is you start at the bottom of your branch. So I made my branch upside down. Let's call this the bottom. So I don't put a teardrop up here. Basically what I'm going to do is do a feather. And then I'm going to just come up maybe a stitch or two. And sometimes I don't even come up at all. I just come right out of the same point. So the first one is a normal feather. The second one, I come around, I kiss the previous feather, and then I come back over the top of it. Right here is where I do my backtracking. About that far, just over the hump or the tip but into the feather. and then I come off and I do another feather. See, so every other feather is a different motion. Come over the top. And then down here I play, and depending on what I want to do, if I'm thinking I want to start coming out of that little groove down here, maybe the next one I'll alter a little bit. Maybe I'll leave a little more gap. Maybe I'll come over here for the next one and just come out here and get out of that little gap. Or I always have the option of doing a little baby feather too. Or I could even do a great big feather. I could do way out here, get a couple wild ones in there. So a lot of people like this one because they like to really play and vary them out. Like, see, maybe I make another little one here, and maybe the next one. So you can do all sorts of things with them. So in this case, I would come back down the spine. I don't know why I decided to do this upside down, but oh well. And then come up the other side. You'll see some people actually might come in here and do a little spiral just to dress it out on every other one. Or, of course, you probably heard about hooks. You could come in here and do a hook instead. So instead of a feather, I got a little hook going in there. It's all the same stuff, and as you get going, you just kind of improvise and do what you like. But this is the other one. So I still suggest learn the simple feather first, and then we'll jump into this one on a future video after you get the rhythm. So both of these feathers have their place. One isn't better than the other. There's going to be times when this feather is what your quilt needs, or your space calls for this, and there's going to be times when you want to jump to this one. They're both good. Start with the simple feather though. It's easier to learn, and then go from there. Well, I hope this helps you get started and helps you develop your own feather and have fun with it.